Hey, Luke, has your opinion of Strickland changed since watching his recent conversation with Theo Vaughn? For me, it was challenging to process. I almost turned it off in the first half because I couldn't identify with Sean's viewpoints, and the discussion was a complete mess. My heart broke for him at the 90-minute mark, though, when the conversation finally felt honest. What did you take away from the podcast? All right, so I have not listened to the whole thing. I've listened to about a solid 10 minutes of it, including the moment you're referring to where there's this switch that ends up happening. I'm actually, it's a weird way to put this. I'm sort of glad that this whole thing has happened and happened in the way that it has, which is it has laid bare the obvious truth, but I think maybe not obvious to everybody, but the clear and certain truth that there are so many lies that we tell, certainly in the sport and beyond, but in the sport about what strength is. So many lies we tell about who we are. So many lies we tell about our identity and what formed it and everything else. I want to show you guys something. I had someone sent this to me, and I thought this was like really instructive to help me understand something. Let me show it to you here, if I may. And it's the following. So this is what Sean, real quickly. So this is what Sean wrote or had tweeted about Khalil Rountree, right? You can see it there, all right? And he's making fun of him. And I'm not going to read the whole thing, but he goes into a bunch of like homophobic stuff. Gayest shit I've ever seen, and I love bi women. So I've seen a lot of, he goes on and on and on. He goes, yeah, you're really special, a special little snowflake. This man is the definition of PC beta male. I mean, the guy's a pro fighter, but okay. You would all hate him. Seriously, being in the same room as him makes me cringe. Let me ask you all a basic question. Why did he say this? Right? Why did he say that? I don't mean like why did he get to Twitter and then do it like that way, although that's part of the equation too. But why did he say what he said? The answer is actually quite obvious. It's because that's what somebody did to him. Somebody along the way, probably his father, but who knows if it's anyone more than that. I don't know. I'm merely speculating. Someone, when he was a child, and he showed vulnerability, as any child is going to do, often, and in ways that almost are desperate, someone made him feel bad for that. Someone scolded him for that. Someone probably beat him for that. Someone made him feel like that. And he turns around and then does it to other people. Like, you ever seen a child? Like, you ever seen they've done these documentaries? They'll go to some bumfuck place in the country and they'll interview some kid who's like 8 or 9 years old and his parents are in the Klan and he's just sort of repeating all this insanely racist shit that they have to say. Like, he didn't come up with that on his own. Children are observant copiers of everything that you do. Right? That is really what the truth is. It's not so much what you tell them, although that can matter to some degree, in some cases very importantly. But more than anything else, they're just going to look at you and they're going to observe what you do. And they're just going to repeat it because they don't really know anything else to do. And they'll repeat some of your good and they'll repeat some of your bad as well. Somebody did that to him. Somebody, when he was younger, made him feel terrible for it. That not only should you not show that, but that now your job is to police the ranks of perceived masculinity around you or perceived emotional control around you. And what you should feel, because what he felt at that moment it happened to him when he was younger, is shame. You should feel shame for these difficult emotions. You should feel shame for whatever it was that Khalil Rountree was dealing with in that particular moment. Someone did it to him. This is what they mean when they talk about repeating the cycles of either violence or maladaptive behavior or whatever else. It is descended from what was given to you. And so here's the opinion I sort of came to. Like, I will be honest about this. Like, I have had a hard time even listening to anything Sean says because he's got a worldview that is deeply, profoundly, utterly broken. But I will say that his story that he told, where he had to be up till 3 a.m. all the time because his dad would come home drunk and he's beating on his mom, or he's just, yelling and screaming and doing whatever else he's doing. And then he can't sleep, and then he has to go to school, and now he's falling asleep at his desk. And then the teacher then removes his desk, and he falls asleep. And now, like, all the problems cascade into other parts of your life. People think that if you have a bad household, you can escape it in this place, and you can escape it in that place. And sometimes you can, but most of the time you just bring it with you, or the worlds just intersect in ways you cannot control. I honestly felt deep sadness for him when he revealed that story. That is a profoundly abused person. A profoundly abused person. I mean, no child, and I'm sure that's what he had to deal with when he's a grown man now, I understand. And he said horrible shit, I understand. But let's go back to the moment in which this worldview was formed. Dude, no child should ever have to suffer what he suffered. Dude, these are vulnerable, impressionable, and I don't say weak as like some kind of like insult, but I mean fragile. These are fragile creatures that you must take extraordinary care to protect and teach and help. And he got none of that. He got none of that. And I've said it a million times, dude, all these online freaks in any corner you might find them where they are lashing out at the world constantly. Dude, it's such a fucking joke to me, right? I said it on MK yesterday where they've got the smiley face mask on and underneath it's just all tears. Dude, anybody who ritually lashes out at the world in the way Sean has and other folks do, these are people that have had their fucking ass kicked by the world. That is why they do that. That is what they know. They don't know anything, or they might know some of the things, but certainly that is what they know. It's the language that they understand. He understands, by virtue of his upbringing, you are to make people feel ashamed for any perceived public weakness, because that is exactly what he got. So I don't want to look the other way on all the horrible shit he has said about any number of things, or the crazy things in one direction or the other. But do I now have a significantly greater degree of sympathy now that I can understand a little bit more about his story? Yeah, of course, man. And I know people are like, oh, he look at what he did to this guy. It's hypocritical for him to now do this. No doubt about it. No doubt about it. There's simply no denying it. But an abused child that grows up without any other form of guidance into an adult, you just have to recognize where this all started, and you have to understand that was not, at the initial juncture anyway, now it's a different story, but at the initial juncture, that was not his fault. And that is a difficult process to undo. It is not a snap your fingers and you grow out of it. You have to process the bad shit that has happened to you in order to get to the other place. And you saw that happen to him in real time, where he could not contain his own sadness in front of the cameras about what had happened to him. And I felt genuinely terrible for him. Genuinely, my heart went out to him in that moment. I mean that with absolute sincerity. And I'm going to say it one more time. That doesn't mean I don't think there's any criticism to make of him for the hypocritical way in which he's gone about his life. I understand that too. One is not divorced from the other. But I just want everyone to know, like, this whole thing about people policing words, it's really never been about that. Number one, in MMA, the fighters, not just the fighters, managers, and media too, but everyone is so insanely sensitive to words. So when people say, well, words can't hurt you, it's like, dude, no one in this business operates like that. So it's not a very believable argument to make. Like, none of you, if I talk shit about a manager, I'm going to get a phone call about it. And when I say talk shit, I mean like even responsible criticism. I'm going to get a phone call about it, right? Like the UFC, this is a very small little thing, but they don't like me very much. You can tell by the fact that like my tweets never show up on fight night. And of course, that's their choice. That's not really the best example. But the point I'm trying to make is, like, fighters, for example, they're the easiest people on earth to troll. I'm not advocating you do that, but it's like shooting fish in a barrel. Why? Because they are incredibly sensitive to certain kinds of words. So it's just not a credible argument to make that, like, these are just words in this industry and you shouldn't care. It's like, dude, none of you believe that. None of you even believe that. You don't even operate your life that way. So please be serious with me here for a second. But the second part about it is, what we're doing here, this performative cruelty, you're just allowing or I shouldn't, allowing is not the right word. You're just making room for, why should we make room for all of the awful things that Sean had to experience today? Why at press conferences do we have to make room for this maladaptive behavior? Why do we have to make room for this pain? I don't mean like allowing him to have real moments of public vulnerability. I'm not saying that, but like, why are we giving room to this idea of cruelty that has been handed down to people as a performative form of entertainment? Why are we giving room to that? It's clearly fucked up. It's not good for these people. It's not a personality trait. It's not laudable. It's not healthy. So like this idea that like, well, this is just part of the fight game. No, the fuck it is not. You are making it part because you also have maladaptive fucking behavior. And by the way, let he who's without sin cast the first stone. This is a process I have gone through the last 15 years. More than that. I am no better either. I didn't go through the same suffering that Sean did, but far be it from me to say that I haven't done some of this lashing out at the world before. That's how I know how true it is, because I've done this shit, man. And I've had to go to therapy for it and had to like examine some of it. And I'm sure I've not even fixed the problem, but I'm in a better place than I was maybe 10 or 15 years ago. This is why this whole thing is so fucking beyond ridiculous. No one actually believes any of the arguments that they're making, and then making room for this kind of behavior. It is so backwards from what we actually should be doing. It's so destructive unnecessarily. And it's like, what do we owe the abusers who created this behavior in the first place that we should continue their lineage? I don't mean as people, but I mean as behavior. What do we owe the people that fucked these people up to continue this? Nothing. We owe them nothing. We owe them absolutely nothing. Nobody owes them anything. So this idea like, well, we should just continue it because that's the unrestrained way. It's the unrestrained lineage of abusive people. That's your fucking clarion call? That shit? Seriously? Makes no sense. It makes zero fucking sense. We don't want to live in a censorious environment where that word you can't say and this thing you can't say. I understand like there's a again, in an unrestrained environment, there's going to be trade-offs positively and negatively. And it's not to make an argument that there are no positive trade-offs having a somewhat unrestrained environment from some kind of uptight environment you could compare it to. That's not really my argument. But what I am trying to say is decency is not some kind of weak trait that we have to press upon each other to make everyone feel nice. It is rather a recognition that the abusive shit that was handed down to these people, we do not owe that an audience. We do not owe that a continuation of a process. We owe that nothing. In fact, I would argue we owe it rejection. I would argue we owe it repudiation. And it only comes from people who the world has beaten the living shit out of. No one whose parents gave them enough hugs typically does this shit. No one who had good structure, who was helped with their homework, who was driven to school, who had clean and new clothes at the beginning of every school year, who had friends, who had a social circle, who had supportive parents. They don't go do that shit. It's the people who lacked those things. Why on earth are we saying it's entertainment and it's good for us to continue the legacy of that fucked up shit? Put a stop to it, bro. Put a stop to it. You can be mean in the fight game much more than you can be in regular society, and we just have to kind of live with it. And I don't expect everyone to have a kumbaya and come together moment with it. But what I am asking for is do not treat human trauma, not so much as entertainment, but as like an authentic version of ourselves. There's nothing authentic about it. In fact, if you have arrived at a position where this is your natural course of thinking, you are off course. And I think what's happened to Sean a little bit here is as he's getting older, a little bit more money, a lot more success. He's got a positive environment around him. Eric Nixick, I think, is a very level-headed guy who's trying to foster a positive environment for the people who come through his door. And I understand and respect that. I think it takes the right kind of guy to do that. I think these things are making Sean, and I don't know him, I'm guessing here, begin to grapple with what has happened to him. And as a consequence, you can see he can't even literally control it anymore. He literally cannot control it. So if you want to be mad at him for being a hypocrite, I understand that. I don't think that he should be free from criticism for all the, he said some horrible shit and continues to, and I'm sure he will in the future too, and on that level, I don't feel sympathy for him on that particular thing, but hearing his stories, like the real nitty-gritty details and seeing the downstream effects of how it fucked up so many parts of his life, and people think that that's a fun personality, get fucked. You're so wrong. You're so fucking wrong. And it's not just him, dude. MMA is filled with people like this who have never treated what has happened to them, and it just becomes their like they just make being unpleasant a personality. Dude, the world beat your fucking ass. And I can see right through it. The world kicked your ass. I don't know how it did. I don't know if some girl broke your heart or, whatever. Or dude broke your heart or whatever. Or you grew up poor and you got made fun of, or who knows? Everyone's got a story to tell. I don't know. Some are worse than others. But everyone lashing out at the world like this as some kind of sign of strength. Dude, you're lashing out because the world fucked your shit up. And I can see right through it. It's so obvious. And this, to me, has been a very instructive moment in that. Dude, Sean Strickland got done wrong by the world, man. He did. In his early life, he got done wrong by the world. As an adult, he has to take responsibility for the choices he makes thereafter. But up until that point, as a child, he got his ass kicked by the world. And if it goes untreated, it turns into this. I hope for his sake and everyone else that he can get the kind of peace and the kind of understanding that any abused child who grows up into an adult is owed. But he has to go and get it. He can't keep doubling down on these mistakes. He can't keep doubling down on, some of these things that he says. So yeah, man, his story is fucking tragic. It's horrific. It's horrific. It's up to him now to fix it. And it's not fair either. That's the other part too. Like, what part of this is fair? Nothing. The world is a cruel and unfair place. Deeply so. Profoundly. But you got to do it, man. You got to do it. And I think it's starting to dawn on him that this is the case. This is just a fight game. This is just how guys are. No, it's not. None of this is the way it is.